1 million views. Thank you all so much. Before we get this video started, I want to let you all know about this video's sponsor. This video is sponsored by me. I have a fitness Instagram page where I haven't uploaded anything in like 6 months. If you're more interested in fitness, just follow me there. Uncle Iroh goes from fat to fit in a relatively short amount of time. I'm not a certified trainer or anything, but I do know quite a bit more about health and fitness than the average person. So I thought it would be fun to analyze Iroh's body transformation from a scientific perspective. Think of this as a before and after body transformation, natty or not, it's sort of framed like actually, of Uncle Iroh. Maybe I can motivate a few of you guys to train with this video, or at the very least I want to teach you guys a thing or two about health and fitness, so let's get into it. Now looking at Iroh's body transformation, it's incredible. The timeline of the Avatar series is exactly 365 days, and Iroh seemed to have made this transformation in just a few weeks. To me, it looks like he lost about 30 pounds of fat and gained about 20 pounds of muscle. Most people would dream of making this transformation in 1 or even 2 years. So how did Iroh do it? To answer that question, we're going to look at Iroh's diet, training, and genetics. That last part's actually pretty important. Iroh's diet was somewhat tailor-made for him, and it's quite clear that he was in a caloric deficit. His paunch decreases in size to the point where he has to put a towel over himself to give the illusion that he's still fat. This ration is absolutely not enough to feed someone of Iroh's physique, or really to keep him functional. But yeah, I guess a calorie deficit is fundamental to weight loss, so this does make sense. It is implied that he got some more food from that one guard who was voiced by Serena Williams, fun fact. But yeah, he was definitely in a caloric deficit. And again, a caloric deficit is fundamental to weight loss. At the end of the day, it's calories in and calories out that determine your weight. No law in the world can break the laws of thermodynamics. So now, getting to the specifics. If we assume Iroh was in prison for 3 months, he could have lost what looks to be 1.5 pounds a week, and this does bode well for his major body transformation. However, it's more so implied that Aang was knocked out for, according to the wiki, several weeks, which is extremely vague, so we don't actually know how long Iroh was in there for. So I guess this fat loss transformation completely depends on who you ask. Some sources also say a few weeks, and I saw this one source that said specifically 2 weeks, so I mean, make of that what you will. I'm gonna pretend it's about 2 months for the sake of this video. Iroh was gaining muscle and losing fat at the same time, quite clearly. And this is where I'd imagine some of you may say this is impossible because, look, aha, Iroh's gaining muscle in a calorie deficit. That is impossible. That makes this transformation unrealistic. This, however, is not true. You can both gain muscle and lose fat at the same time, especially for someone in Iroh's position, which we'll talk about later. Muscles are built with water, protein, energy, and a training stimulus. Water and protein will assume he gets ample amount, and training stimulus, obviously he does that enough. There's a whole long explanation on how the energy side works, but you can actually build muscle in a calorie deficit. Calories are energy, so you need enough energy, right? If you're in a calorie deficit, the extra calories you would need to then gain muscle are used up with fat. So your fat is converted to energy, which usurps the need for extra calories. So let's say Iroh needs 3,000 calories to maintain his paunch, and he gets 2,500 calories in prison. The remaining 500 calories he's missing will be burnt off fat. So yes, you can build muscle and lose fat at the same time. They're actually 2 different bodily processes. This is a perpetuated myth. It's literally something fitness companies made to make you think you need to bulk and cut to gain muscle, so they can keep on selling you their fat burners and their mass gainers. It's hard to see exactly what Iroh's eating, but it looks like there's a mix of carbs with the rice and protein with probably what's meat. Through the world building, we find out that the Fire Nation has a lot of meat. Meat are generally high in protein, and protein of course is the muscle building macronutrient. So Iroh does look like he could have made this weight loss transformation within this time period. In prison, Iroh was doing some intense calisthenics exercises. These exercises included, but were not limited to, sit-ups, one-handed pull-ups,
handstand push-ups, and much more. All these require intense body weight strength, and the fact that Iroh was able to do this at what looks to be about 200 pounds is incredible. In order to move yourself around the battlefield, these movements are essential. So doing these calisthenics exercises is very important. I also feel like doing these calisthenics exercises helps with your strength, coordination, and makes your muscles a little bit more ripped because of how much stabilizing you need to do. These exercises consist of a good mix of push and pull exercises, which work on your anterior and posterior muscles, which is just a fancy way of saying your front muscles and your back muscles. Again, these exercises are quite intense, so he's going to be building a lot of muscle with them. It's unknown whether he escaped during the eclipse or after the eclipse, but nevertheless, this muscle gain is quite unrealistic for anyone in this sort of a time period. Even the most genetically gifted people are not going to make this transformation without, let's just say, fancy vitamins.
This is where everything comes full circle. What Iroh did in his training may seem unrealistic, but when you put things in full context, it does look a little bit more plausible. Iroh was the prince of the Fire Nation, and was likely in similar shape as he is now. This means that Iroh is not only working with elite Fire Nation genetics, but also muscle memory. Muscle memory is actually a thing, and I've experienced it myself being quarantined for so long without a gym. Your body remembers how to be strong, and you'll get back into shape more quickly than when you first got into shape. The science behind this is that your muscle fibers have myonuclei in them. As your muscles get bigger, they get more myonuclei. If you stop training, your muscle fibers will get smaller, but you'll still maintain the same number of increased myonuclei. So when you want to get back into shape, you already have the myonuclei ready to develop the muscle fibers and grow if need be. They don't need to jam in more myonuclei. That's why it's much easier to get back into shape than it is to originally get in shape. Ozai was Fire Lord for 5 years, and that means Iroh was at most removed from serious combat for 5 years. There were at least a few weeks where Ozai wasn't Fire Lord after Lu Ten died, but let's just neglect that. So we can assume Iroh took 5 years to get into his fat shape. So after 5 years of not training, he gains most of it back within a few months of training? Is that realistic? This might be a hot take, but personally I don't think so. That much muscle gain in 3 months is not realistic in any circumstance. And to be clear, he is gaining muscle, not just losing fat like I've heard some people say. Even with elite Fire Nation genetics and muscle memory, this transformation just doesn't seem possible to me, even if I give him the most charitable time period. He goes from obese, which is a medical term, I'd say he looks about 35% body fat, to about 15% body fat. If you were to ask me, he probably lost about 30 pounds and gained about 20 pounds. But yeah, he went from obese to what we in the bodybuilding community would call bear mode in probably a month or two. He looks like a damn Viking ready to wrestle a bear, my goodness. You can believe it's possible, it might be, but personally I don't. This isn't specifically to do with his body transformation, but let's look at how Iroh broke out of prison. Iroh was able to take on all the guards. He was known as a one-man army. Given the canon of the show, this does actually seem pretty realistic. Iroh is able to defeat Azula without bending rather easily. The same Azula who previously beat Zuko without bending in a fight. And Zuko was no slouch. He's one of the best firebenders in the canon. But in hand-to-hand combat alone, Iroh is at least 2 tiers above him. Not to mention this was when he was fat. So it isn't actually unrealistic for him to break out of prison with his raw martial arts. So to summarize, I think Iroh's fat loss is possible. I think his martial arts and general hand-to-hand combat expertise is possible. But I don't think that his body transformation, as in his physique overall, is possible. Or rather, his specific body transformation is not possible. It's possible to get his physique, of course. But I guess a lot of stuff in Avatar is really unrealistic, like Katara mastered waterbending in a year, Sokka became proficient in sword fighting in just a day, and there's probably a lot of more examples actually. What I find also really interesting about Iroh is how his body looks in general. Neither Zuko, Ozai, or Azula have the same physique as Iroh. Iroh has a bulky physique, reminiscent of Northern Europeans who were descendants of Vikings, if I remember correctly. Everyone else in his family is slim, or in the case of Ozai, muscular like a bodybuilder. In other words, Iroh is built like an endomorph, Ozai is built like a mesomorph, and Zuko and Azula I'd say are built like ectomorphs or kind of mesomorphs, similar to what I am. Of course, everyone can change their body type a little bit over time with diet and training, but there is a very strong genetic component to this. You can give someone like, say, Tristan Lee $1 billion to gain 250 pounds, to get up to 250 pounds, and he probably couldn't do it. But some people get to 250 pounds and they don't even try to do it. It's just, oh, I'm eating food and then, oh, 200 pounds, oh, look at that. It happens to people. And the same thing with Iroh's family. He's the only one who has this propensity to gain body fat. No one else in his family does. Not his father, not his brother, not his son, not his nephew, not his niece. No one in his family is built like Iroh. Some may even say Iroh is built different. I should cut that out. I'm gonna end the video there. Thanks for watching. Thank you again for 1 million views. I can't believe it, 1 million views. That's great. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you enjoyed this video, let me know. I can make more of these, and this was pretty fun, pretty interesting to change things up a bit. And I'll catch you all next time. Alright, peace. Bye.